Welcome, everybody. This is the 8th in a series of show and tells. This is Speed Showing. We have 21 speakers this evening, and they each are going to show us what they've been up to, and it is a mix. We've got some exhibitors from our train show here. We've got a lot of people doing things, and we have just some stuff at random to show you what's going on. So with that, guys, we're going right to our first person, Bob Moore, one of the guys on the Dirty 30, which is an ON30 layout from Canada. They've been at the show for about 5 or so times. Take it away, Bob.
Thank you, John. Throw up the first slide. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through a number of slides here on how we make our mountains and hills. We're a module gang. We track our modules in and out of shows, up and down the stairs of the house, and so light is the key word. We can't use hydrocal because it's very easy to put 10 or 20 pounds onto a module, put a pair of modules together, and you're going to end up with a hernia. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this chunk of styrofoam that you see in front of us there. Next slide. And we're going to convert it into something like this. Next slide. So what we're going to do is, in that red area, we're going to build a mountain. And you'll see that the mountain goes across 2 modules, and we're going to build a hill. Next slide. So what we do is I want that mountain to be kind of close to the tracks, so I lay down a pattern, make it out of a piece of newspaper, cut it out. Next slide. And I transfer it to a chunk of styrofoam. What you see there is a 4-inch chunk of styrofoam. We use 2-inch styrofoam, 1.5 inch styrofoam. However high you want to go. If I want to go higher than that, at 4 inches, which is what I'm going to do, then I carve that styrofoam out, make another pattern, and cut out another chunk of styrofoam and keep adding it until I reach the height of the mountain that I want to create. Next slide. And there we've cut out the chunk of styrofoam for that little hill that we've got. Next slide. And so here you see the final product. What you're taking a look at there is you're taking a look at 3 layers of 4-inch styrofoam. We've taken a hot wire, we've taken a filleting knife, a little bit of sandpaper, and we just freelanced the carving so that it looks like something that we want it to look like. Now, when you carve styrofoam, it opens up the pores in the styrofoam. And so what we're going to do, next slide, is we're going to cover that styrofoam with about 3 or 4 coats of latex paint, the kind of stuff that you pick up at the Home Depot or any other place, the discards that you can pick up for $5. Doesn't make a bit of difference as to what the color looks like. What I want to do is I want to seal those pores that are exposed by when we take the hot wire, when we take our knife and carve up that styrofoam. Next one. Here we are, we're looking at the other end because we're going to show you some pictures of both ends. And you can see how it's starting to take shape. Next slide. Now, normally if you're using hydrocal, you're using washes. That's an alcohol with some kind of a dye, can be any ink. However, when you're dealing with styrofoam, styrofoam does not hold washes at all. In fact, it washes completely off. So what we're doing here is we're applying a base coat of the color. Here we've got our expert, Graham Chase, and what he's doing there, he's applying a coat of blackish brown or brownish black, and that forms the basis from what we're going to be working on. Now from here on, what he's going to do is he's going to dry brush. That is, he's going to put some paint on the brush, and he's going to take 99.999% of that paint off of the brush. He's going to be using a bristle brush, and what he's going to do is he's going to dry brush the paint randomly all over that chunk of styrofoam that you see there. And he's going to start off with the darker colors. In this case, he's going to start off with a dark gray, and he's going to work his way up to lighter shades of gray. Next slide, please. And so what you've got here is you've got the various 3 stages. In the back there with the white, that's what we're starting off with originally after we applied our latex paint. In the front one, you've got that blackish brown being applied. And in the middle, you'll see where he's starting to add the gray shades to build things up. Next slide. And here you see the finished product. That mountain off in the middle is what we originally started off with. And we've added some ground cover. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got a whole slew of mountains there. That's what I call Cabano Canyon. So you can see how we've taken from a flat module and we've added some really nice mountainous effects, which separates the layout that we use. And this is freeform. Our last show at Springfield, we had a footprint, I think it was about 40 feet by 40 feet, I stand to be corrected. But it adds a really, really nice effect to it. Next slide. And here you see the final product. That's that same chunk of styrofoam that you saw in the first couple of slides. Next slide. And to really add effect to it, we add some ground foam. We put some trees around, and we've ended up with the final product. Next slide. And you can see how the impact is with the trees added to the ground foam scenery. It really does a really nice effect. What we've done there is we've taken a module which would weigh maybe 4 or 5 pounds, and all we've done to create that mountain is we've added maybe another 2 or 3 pounds of styrofoam, so that we still have a very nice light module that we can truck up and down the stairs and are 360 miles from Ottawa down to Springfield. Next slide. And there we are. Over to you, John.
Thanks very much, Bob. What I really liked about that was I got to see some of those pictures were at our trade show. So that was cool. But now that I've seen these modules, I can't wait to see them in person. So guys, next to move right along is Bob Paquette. You've heard Bob a couple times if you've been here before. He's an extraordinary modeler. Been with us a few times. This time he took a trip to Australia. Bob, take it away. Yo, Bob. And guys, hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can help at all. Bob Paquette, are you out there? Checking, guys. Hold on. And we may have to go back to that, guys, which won't be a problem. But let me quickly show you a little bit of previews of actual trolleys in Australia. So we're going to worry about that once we can get a hold of Bob. So Bruce, surprise, you're up quicker than we thought. Bruce Leckie. Guys, another Dirty 30 guy. But Bruce.
We're all over the place.
Yeah. But Bruce, guys, is the one who got the Dirty 30 into the show. He brought his own modules. Guys, whoever that is, I need you to mute the line, please.
Are you guys hearing some music?
Yeah, someone's testing their speakers. And
that's a problem.
Bruce, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that might be you with the testing of the speakers, but that seems to have gone away. Anyways, so we could keep moving. Bruce, I was about to say, guys, Bruce is the guy who got the Dirty 30, the ON 30 layout into the show when he brought his own modules down here originally. Bruce, take it away.
Okay. Yes. Here we go with the music again. Anywho.
Bruce, that's
first slide, please.
Yeah, I think that's in the background of you.
I can't figure out where to turn it off.
Do you have a microphone icon? A green microphone icon? Hugging.
I do.
Click on that because I think you're on the phone, anyways. Are you not?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were on the phone.
Okay, so yeah.
Well, so do the best you can. Go ahead.
Okay, so anywho, go ahead. This is my corner module called Coralie Cove. The neat thing about this is that all these structures are made out of Clever Models cardstock textures, which I downloaded. I discovered the Clever Models at Springfield. The first year I was there, took a quick break to walk around, and I was absolutely blown away. So all the structures you see on the screen here now are all scratch built from my design using Clever Models structures. Yeah, so it's in 3 levels. The lower level has the track. Next level up has most of the town, and the upper level has the Rowan's Resort. Next structure. Okay, there we go. So this is another view. We're starting to look at the harbor now. I wanted a harbor scene to go around this, so I basically built one. The boat you see is an extended version of the Clever Models Clyde Puffer. I've added about 10 feet to it, changed the wheelhouse, and just generally plated up. It's all cardstock on top of a wooden base. Next structure. So most of this is Clever Models cardstock textures, with the exception of the center building. That's a really textured piece of paper that Peter Gray found somewhere, and that looks really great when you work with it. The paddle wheel that you see is about the 3rd or 4th that I built, trying to get this to work properly. This is a disused mill, and it's now used by my son-in-law, if you will, who's a woodworker, so that's S&L Woodworking. Next slide, please. Now you see Emperor's Fish and Chips. All the signs on here, by the way, were made by my middle daughter, who's a graphics designer, so I tapped into that. You can just barely see some of the chairs there. Those are Muskoka chairs, or down in the States, Adirondack chairs, which I suggested to a manufacturer, Mini Prints, who got the suggestion from me on Tuesday, and by Friday they were done. So these are really nice 3D printed chairs that are just extremely fine detail. Next slide, please. So the reddish structure, if you will, that's Moore's Mercantile Emporium and Funeral Parlor, named after Mr. Moore, of course. There isn't now, but there will be a hearse painted on the backdrop. I'll be getting to that eventually. What else on this? Again, they're all Clever Model structures and all scratch built. Next slide, please. So this is the harbor scene. You can see the cardstock boat to the left. The white boat there is a Great Lakes fishing tug. I only have about 50-odd feet in that little bay there, and I wanted a fishing tug. The full-size fishing tugs are about 85 feet, so I didn't have room for that, but I stumbled on this one. This was working out of Lake Superior, so I built that. It's carved out of spruce with added details on it. And again, the fishery, the fish place is Clever Models cardstock structure. The crane is styrene. You can just see some seagulls there. They're mini prints. And if you look carefully, you see a lot of green patches. I used Envirotex for the water, and unfortunately, bubbles showed up there long after I figured they would have been gone. So rather than pour another thing, I just added some ground foam where the bubbles were. Next slide, please. And another view of the mill. Next slide. So here we can see I'm starting to mock up the structures. I take dollar store foam core board, and using prototype dimensions, I basically build a rough stand-in model, stare at it for a while, decide whether or not I want to make it, and then I actually build the model more or less to what I've designed with the foam core. You can just see I'm starting to lay track there. I've used popsicle sticks for the ties. They've actually worked out reasonably well, except for the fact that the rail height is slightly different from adjacent modules, so I have to take that into account when we're hooking up. Next slide, please. And you can see the structures that I've got there. These were all put together in one afternoon at a setup weekend we had up our way. Just basically we put our modules up, work on them together, and generally chit chat and stuff. Next slide. And there's another view of the Miss GJ, named after my daughter. Next slide. And that's it. And I will see if I can find a way to turn off this stuff here.
There we go. And next up, everybody, and oh, geez, that's a little bit better. Next up is Kurt Jelnick, guys, and our immediate past president. He's been a presenter before. Kurt, let me see if I can make sure you're on the air here. There you are. Yep. Kurt, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Here we go. There you go. There's your slides.
All right. So we're gonna make this short and sweet. Back in my last presentation, I mentioned something about mitering plywood to conserve material, and especially if you're making a helix and you got to cut all those radiuses. You know, regardless of how you try to splice it in or piece it together, you still end up wasting a lot of material, and it takes a lot of time to cut all those curves. So what I've done is developed a biscuiting method here, where you would take a sheet of plywood and basically make corners out of straight pieces. If you look at your photo on the bottom right, the bottom strip of plywood, you basically take and figure out your width, how wide you need them, and you know how long you're going to need the pieces. You rip your plywood, you cut your 15 I used a 15-degree angle. You can use whatever angle you want depending on your scale or application. You cut your first 15-degree. If you're building a helix and you're going to make 50 of these, it'd be better to set up a stop for your length, so you can just slide the plywood in, cut, flip it over, slide it in, cut, flip, and just keep on going for as many as you need. The leftover piece on the end, I would use to attach that in the module, the square C there, I would use to attach that to the rest of the layout. Or you could just cut a 15-degree and scrap the rest. It's up to you. But I actually put together 10 sections of this for a circle on my layout, session 6. See, of our thing there, it had a nice shot of it. And I actually put it up in one piece and then leveled it up on a 2% grade. Came out very, very nice. And it was very easy to work with once it's assembled. Okay, now your basic, you got to do these in the right order or you'll really get into trouble. Basically, what you want to do is put screws up from the bottom for blocks number 2 and 3. And those are going to be your blocks that you're going to use for your clamps to hold the pieces together. So what I've done here is, is you start by putting down a piece of wax paper where your seam's going to be. Otherwise, your pieces are going to be permanently adhered to the board you're working on. And then I put a screw in hole number 1. Actually, sorry, back that up. First thing you do is put a light layer of glue on each side, including to fill the pocket for your biscuits. Then you screw down screw number 1 on top of your board with your wax paper in place. Then you set piece B in place, line them up a little bit, put your clamps on very slightly. Now, the reason you have to screw it down is because when you clamp these together, points 1 and 4 tend to want to lift, and thus making your board not flat. So what you do is I put a light pressure on the clamps just to hold it in place. And then I put a screw in number 4, tighten it down, and then come back and put your clamp on nice and tight, clean up your glue, let it sit for 2 to 3 hours or overnight. If you're doing these in production, you can glue 3 or 4 of them together and then come back and glue the pairs together. And you can really get a lot done, and it's very nice and very smooth. Thinking back on this, you can actually use this to join any pieces of plywood, maybe even in place, depending if you got to be able to keep them flat. Otherwise, you end up with a hop, and cars tend to uncouple on that. But this is just a way to save a lot of time and material. Like I say, especially if you're building a helix. I actually built another section where I actually made it like twice as long as the others. And I actually put a piece of straight track in between so that kind of stretched the curve a little bit. And that came out really, really sweet. But like I say, if you go to our session 6, you'll see a lot more of the layout, and you'll see a lot more of these pieces in action. So hope this helps. Any other questions, send me an email, send me a chat. And we're done for tonight. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that. And that really does make a huge difference as far as how much material you're using. A huge difference. Next up, guys, is Dale Johnson. And guys, Dale has one picture, but what a picture. And I will let Dale explain. Dale, let's make sure you're on the air. Dale, are you there?
I am.
Excellent. Let's show these folks. Here you go.
Thanks, John. My name is Dale Johnson. I'm with Turboliner Memories, and I may have met some of you in the years that we've exhibited at the Amherst show. But tonight I'm not going to show a Turboliner photo, but something even more unique. In 1976, the year of America's bicentennial celebration, there were a number of special rail-related events and repainted pieces of equipment used to mark the occasion. Probably the most well-known of these was the American Freedom Train, which is a rolling showcase of United States history that toured the nation behind former Southern Pacific steam locomotive 4449. The photo I would like to share with you this evening documents one of the Freedom Train's most unique and photogenic display stops. The location is the St. Louis riverfront on a cloudless April 9th, 1976. Occupying street trackage along the Mississippi River's edge is the American Freedom Train during its national tour stop in the Gateway City. Making a brief appearance between the tunnels at the base of the Gateway Arch is Amtrak's Chicago-St. Louis Train 301, sporting a nearly new Amfleet consist that debuted on this route less than 4 months earlier. And pulling the Amfleet cars is a likewise recently delivered P30CH locomotive. I wonder how many other locations allowed one to photograph Amtrak operation and the American Freedom Train together. Thank you for the opportunity to share this unique moment in American railroading history. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. The first time I saw that picture, I freaked. I was at a hotel not too far from here, but to see all of this action in one is just a wonderful thing. So it's a great photo, suitable for framing, I might add. Next up, guys, is Dan Bigda. Now, Dan, a lot of you know, he's got what's a layout, an O-scale layout called the Hampton Terminal Railroad. And boy, I told him when I was talking with him earlier, this is like a well-kept secret because this is one heck of a railroad. Dan, are you out there?
I am here. How you doing,
All
John?
right, I'm doing well, thanks. Here's your first slide, Dan. Let's
Yeah.
let everybody know what's happening here.
Okay. Here again, thank you everybody for coming, and hope everybody's well and COVID free and all that. But I'll get moving. Here's the pictures of my model railroad that we'll go through, and right here, this picture is of an actual scale model of the Bondsville trestle. It's a scale 480 feet long or 12 feet long, scale. And so being a railroader and having our ability to freelance and do what we want and make it our own. Here I have a CP train, as I call it, run-through train, a pig train running on the Bondsville trestle. As we know today, that wouldn't handle the weight, but what are model railroads for? So I use the scene a lot, and many people like it. And actually, I think the CP Railroad, one of their executives has it on their wall, which is kind of cool. So next slide, John. Here we have again, the approach of the Bondsville trestle. But what's unique about this is the lumber car, the log car that's in front. I made that car in 4 hours. Again, being O scale, and had the car painted, modeled, painted, weathered, decaled, trucks on everything in 4 hours. Part of why I understand model making is my background is as a master model maker. I was trained as that in my early career. So getting on with life, believe it or not, I now own a partly stagnant rail car fleet, but that's another story for another day. And behind the cars are modified hoppers, wood chips, and again, the model railroad's based on having paper industry traffic on it. And with the model railroad, as I'll go a little bit deeper, as I'm just free speeching there, saying things as I remember stuff, is you can actually load a car with box paper to make boxes and then deliver that car to another paper company that they will actually make the boxes for their customers and then ship out those via rail car. Next slide, John. Here we have a scene that I actually worked for Guilford Rail Industries for 4 years, from 1987 to 1991. And there was a scene when we started running trains, long trains, over the Worcester Main line. There was a scene kind of similar to what you see here. And I always remember looking back from the locomotive. We're next to a river, the train on the edge next to the river with the mountain to our left, heading north. This scene kind of depicted that, and I kind of modeled that here. Actually, too, with the J.M. Huber cars and the clay slurry cars that would be heading back to Maine or wherever, I don't know, let's say going to Maine rather, with the loads for the paper mills. Next slide. This scene is unique. The car itself, I will use the model railroad to stage scenes to get new customers to lease cars from us. So America here, I printed up the car, or printed out the logos of the company on the actual rail car itself, put it on it, and when I sent this in, and along with some other pictures that I had, helped us sell to get a 100-car lease. So not only do I use the model railroad to model and maintain some saneness in my life to get away, I also use it to stage photos for the railcar industry, and like this, help seal a deal to lease 100 of these 4750 grain hoppers to move clay. And so that's the reason why this picture's here. Next frame. Here's where the box factory is. This, John, when I was talking to him earlier in the week, loves this mill. I admitted to him that I did not build this. I bought this from the late Phil Obolowski. This was his mill, and when he tore down his layout, he had it for sale. It needed to be on my layout, but then when I bought it, it sat under the layout for a year or more. To one of my friends came by and said, this would work here. And it was such a great idea. I had the scene done in about 2 days, scenic tracking and everything else, with the people on the dock loading the paper into the boxcars. So kudos to the late Phil Obolowski on making this mill, and he had such a great O-scale layout. He was a dear friend, and I miss him. So next slide. Here again, the Bondsville trestle, essentially just about the whole length of it, again in O-scale. And here's the paper cars running on one of the many trains I have running on the railroad that are staged and then come in and out for different reasons of running the paper. But again, just another scene. The road below you would be Main Street, Bondsville on the north end. Of course, I didn't finish the plaster with the paint, but in this picture, but it is now done now. One of the other things I got to do, paint the rail on it and weather it up some and so forth. But as I try to put cars in layout, I try to weather them, get them all dirtied up and whatnot. Next frame. Again, John and I talking, he loved this scene. I had a city scene on the model railroad. And with this, I tried to, with the modeling era being around 1977, we had a lot of old stores that are gone or lost and forgotten. And as I remember as a kid, a lot of the signage or you see grants may not depict an actual building, but I thought it looked good on this particular one. This is I forget the company that made this casting of this building, but I cut it all up and I put the guys grilling out there, grilling food and whatever to have dinner at night. And so with model railroading, there's more than just the train to see. There's city scenes or all these other things that I also love to model. Also, you see the birds and the pigeons on the water tank. Next slide. This is a cool scene. Another one. I named things after the people I know, the buildings. One, or I remember as a kid referencing last night at Grant's. Well, here's what I think my wife's art studio would be. So it's Kara's Art Studio, which is my wife's name. And that's her actual sign she has out here at our house for art studio. And then all the pictures and everything in the window are actually scaled down pictures of her artwork in the windows. So when you walk in her art gallery or look at these pictures, it's actual pictures and artwork of her, what she did for art, either sold or whatever she did in the window. So, and then right here we have a store that was named after my friend Tim Gilman, and he loves sausages, so I named it after him. Next slide. Again, another scene. You can see part of the train on the left, but here's some guys playing checkers with the dog out on the deck. And to the right, you have the Main Street further up from the earlier scenes. Again, unique things I think are lost. There's some of the scenes I have seen do show this, but I think they're great effects. And when people come and see these things, they see something other than a train. And with this, you see the guys on the deck playing chess. see sidewalks with the cracked cement, and then the traffic out in the street and people talking, so forth. So next slide, John. Excuse me. This is a project I was working and I just completed, and it's essentially assembled, but the scenery is not in place yet. But this is a wood chip conveyor that I built that's lit with a walkway. And what I liked about this scene is I put a bird out flying from the that took off the conveyor system itself and is flying. And as the gentleman walks off, as the birds would clear away. So one flew away, and there it is on the right, and the others are still perched up on the conveyor. And of course, as he walks closer, he'll all the birds will scatter, but as a model, we'll of course never see it. This also goes from where the wood chips are unloaded to the main factory building, which is about 4.5 feet long, scale again. So it's a pretty big building. I had fun walking up and down the stairs with it. It got pretty heavy when I started getting done. Next slide, John.
That's it.
Oh, that's it? All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was but thank you very much. And
Yeah, all right.
Hope you guys like it and have a good night.
I loved it. And how many times, Dan, have I said to you, I got to get over and see your railroad? So that will happen as soon as we're not so restricted. But I've just seen picture after picture of it. So I'm really looking forward to getting over there someday.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, John wanted me, and I had a presentation I'll set up, tools of the trade that I was supposed to do. Remember, John? Yeah. As a presentation at one of your meetings. And the other thing I do is I hold model making classes on Saturday mornings if anybody's ever interested. That's always available every Saturday. So feel free to
definitely
email me or hold of John to come up and have that. So anyway, sorry I took more time, but
you're good. You're good. Thank you. Thanks. Next up, guys, is Dean Pyers from the Steam Railroading Institute. Dean, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here, John.
Oh, what name are you under? Because I don't see you.
It should be under DP. I thought it was. I'm not sure.
Is that what it is? Yes. Okay, I was looking for your full name. No problem. So, guys, a little bit of an intro. Dean is from Steam Railroading Institute, way out in Michigan. And he's going to tell us what's going on at this nonprofit. And they have been the recipient of our Heritage Grant Program. So, Dean, please take it away.
Hey, thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you tonight. I am a volunteer, as John said, with SRI in Owasso. And although this time of year we would normally be busy with our North Pole Express trips with 1941 Berkshire locomotive, Paramarquette 1225. This year, of course, that's not happening, but our shop is still working on maintenance projects. We thought we'd just give you a quick update on what we've been up to. So go ahead to the next slide. I'll start with a completed project. This was the subject of the Heritage Grant that John mentioned a few years ago. When Paramarquette 1225 was built in 1941, it was built with plain bearings or friction bearings, requiring journal oil to be added. And those have been outlawed for interchange. You can only operate with special permits for some number of years now. And so we've been replacing the friction bearings with roller bearings. And the grant from the Amherst Society was to do the pony truck, the front truck on the locomotive. And here you see the completed work from your grant. That's an Amherst bearing there, a roller bearing. We send the axle out to a shop in Pennsylvania where the bearing was pressed on, and then our machine shop in Owasso modified the journal pockets to accept the new bearing diameter. So we thank you for that. And then also you see some new lube lines and other things that were installed. Since that, we've also completed the trailing truck of the locomotive and both tender trucks. So we've eliminated all of the journal oil and plain bearings now. So next, I'll talk about a project that we're getting started with. Next slide. Our next Operation in the shop will be taking these components and pallets of parts and rusty objects and turning it into something very close to this, Chicago and Northwestern number 175. This locomotive is actually a little older than Paramarquette 1225. It was built in 1908 by Alco in Schenectady, and it's a 460 10-wheeler. It did operate in the state of Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula, around the iron mines around Escanaba, and the ore docks at Escanaba. And we've been looking for a smaller engine for some time now, and the opportunity to acquire this one came about. It has not run since 1957. It was preserved for possible excursion service in the UP, but was never restored. And so we're starting in on that now to restore it and bring it back to service. Next slide, John. So to follow our progress, MichiganSteamTrain.com, all one word, no spaces, is our web address, Michigan Steam Train. And we're also on Facebook, several different sites on Facebook. There is a back shop page or a back shop of the Steam Railroading Institute that you can follow and see our progress in the shop. And if you're ever out this way, stop and see us. And we hope to see you again at the show sometime out in Springfield. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Guys, next up is Doug Pitney. Doug is the president of Todd Architectural Models, and you'll recognize him. He's only been in the show, I think, once. This would have been the second time. Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But when you see what he's doing, it's quite impressive. So here you go, Doug.
Okay. Hello, my name is Doug Pitney, and my model making company is Todd Architectural Models. We are located in Chatham, New Jersey, and have been in business for 53 years. My background is consulting civil engineering. I worked on the Northeast Corridor realignment, DC Metro, New York City Transit Authority maintenance of way yards and platform extensions, and the New York and Long Branch's electrification at Long Branch Yard, all back in the 1980s. I have been in the model making business since 1989, and we started producing O-scale shadow boxes in buildings in 2015. The slides that follow are our small sampling of original models and variations of a theme. So this goes to the first slide. The first slide shows how we can vary a theme. Our original model of the D.F. Stauffer Biscuit Company of York, Pennsylvania, a 4-story building that has been raised, has evolved into 3 to 6-story variations. 5 and 6-story shadow boxes are shown to the left of the original 4-story right side element of the D.F. Stauffer building. That's what this slide is. John, next slide. This slide depicts a 2-story variation of our Paterson, New Jersey silk mill project. The 2 sister mills, which still exist and have been repurposed, each 4 stories tall, have different windows and fascia. This particular model has the standard double hung windows and cast concrete fascia. All of our shadow boxes have individual floors and ceilings. 12-volt DC LED lighting is optional on all shadow boxes and included in buildings. Typically, shadow boxes are 1 inch deep, but they can be produced to other depths. And we can also do offset shadow boxes, basically offsetting one end of the shadow box about 1 inch for every 12 inches of length. Next slide. This slide depicts the 2-story Paterson silk mill in O-scale as a 12-inch square building. Note the freight doors on the first level on the right side. We can customize placement of doors, windows, and freight doors to meet your needs. And basically that means that however you want to configure the building, we can do it. In old-time Paterson and many other mills, there were no freight elevators inside. All the freight was moved on the outside, so you would actually see your freight doors in what I would call a vertical window column. Next slide. I exhibited at the Amherst Railway Society's Hobby Show for the first time this past January. This O-scale model is our version of the birthplace of basketball that was in Springfield. The building was torn down in the 1960s. They put up a parking lot, and now there's a McDonald's there and a small little sign on the street corner that tells you that that's where the building used to be. There are 12 floor areas that can be individually lit. The first floor has to have clear glazing, which you see there, and actually those doors are inset under the main elevation. But the upper floors can have your choice of clear, translucent, Roscoe Lux gray, or Roscoe Lux gray with translucent behind, as this picture shows. And basically that's the evolution of our shadow boxes. They first had clear glazing. People didn't want to see in, so we added translucent. After that, the translucent models started looking too much the same, so we started using the Roscoe Lux gray, which looks pretty realistic in an unlit situation. The trouble is, if you light it, you can then see into it, which gets you back to square one. So we put the translucent material behind it, and it gets a nice warm glow to it. Next slide. This is our shop demo table with a number of our O-scale models shown. In the foreground is our Union Pacific trackside warehouse project, shown as 3 stories with customer requested lettering. Note the clear glazing behind our models that have translucent and Roscoe Lux gray glazing. So here, this picture basically shows the 3 unlit versions of the glazing options that we can provide in any of the models. Next slide. This is our second Patterson Mill project. The complex is now known as the Art Factory. The main building is massive, and this is an O-scale version standing next to our Pickwick Hotel project of Kansas City. So you can basically see floor to floor. It's equivalent to, or even higher than what you see at a standard hotel. And this is an S-scale versus O-scale. The model was developed from historic documentation CAD files that were provided by the owner. And basically a gentleman has come in and repurposed this entire complex. So we've done this model in both O scale and S scale. Our first downtown, next slide. Our first downtown building or city building is currently being developed. The task board laser check run is to the left of the original Pickwick Hotel check run. This is laser scored and cut task board material. The project will offer variations in width and height, and it is shown 24 inches tall right here. Next slide. This is a close-up of the window detail for the new downtown building. The windows are 3 layers of laser cut polyback and will be painted in 2 colors. There will be half-round columns between each window. Another feature that we're doing here in the laser cutting of the acrylic plastic that we make the elevations out of is, instead of straight cutting the opening for the windows, there's actually a minute notch. So when you see the scoring for the block, it actually wraps around the corner so that you see it on the inside cut edge. Next slide. This last slide shows the shop demo table fitted with various versions of the Union Pacific trackside project. The prototype was 2 stories. Each section is 12 inches long, interlocks with additional sections. We have built it up to 6 stories with and without the loading platform. Note the optional canopy over the loading platform, elevation color variations, and window light paint and color variations. Basically, I have 8 different window styles that we can install in these models. In closing, thank you, John, for providing me with this time slot. We are considering our Patterson Silk Mill and Union Pacific Trackside Warehouse projects in HO scale. Right now, I've only done primarily O scale and some S. If you would be interested in HO offerings, please reach out to me at the shop. When I was up in January, a number of people asked me about doing HO. I said, well, if you let me know, I'll consider it. And I didn't get a single note back here in New Jersey once I got back. So please let me know. I actually have a couple of prototypes worked up by those 2 projects. And also our laser cut models and laser cut letter sets may be viewed at www.toddarchitecturalmodels. You can call me anytime at the shop. The number is 973-507-4072. and I look forward to seeing you all at the virtual show. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, Doug. And that's great news to hear about the HO scale, because that stuff is gorgeous. Guys, next is Eric Smith from Microtrains. I don't think Eric is here, but let me give a shout out just to make sure, because he said he may not be able to make it. He had a conflict. Eric Smith, are you here? Okay. So he told me to go ahead and just show the slides anyways, guys. And really what he's doing, Microtrains comes to the show. And they do N and Z scale stuff. All right. And this first one, he just wanted me while you're looking at that to let you know that this first release is out in November. And the car has all kinds of molding detail, microfine printing. I'm reading separate end ladders, brake and rod detail, etched metal brake platforms. It's the correct height above the rail. Includes body-mounted magnetic couplers, 36-inch wheels, and our second release will be a CXX version of this, guys, in the first quarter of 2021. The next slide is their covered hopper, their two-bay covered hopper, PS2 two-bay covered hopper. First release is late 2021, early 22, but it features a separate roof hatches, 8 each, I guess. Fine scale etched metal walkway, 33-inch wheels, correct height against the up above the rail, body mounted magnetic couplers. Plans include road names, the ATSF, B&O, CNW, CSX, MKT, UP, and I guess many more. And the last slide, guys, is the Sweet Liquid, quote unquote, 39-foot single dome tank cars. First release will be February 2021, so not too far from now. The Beehive corn syrup is coming first, and it'll include 12 different releases. Other road names are all over the place. Hubbinger, Flow Sweet, Miranda Sugar, Domino Sugar, Molasses, Melissa Gilbert, right? Molasses Gilbert, Imperial Sugar, Sweet Pure Molasses, Union Starch Sugar Refining Company, Mangels King Syrup, and Pennick and Ford. So there you go, guys, and another sample of a great exhibitor that comes to the show that specializes in smaller stuff, hence Microtrains. Next up, Gary Donald. Gary, are you out there?
I'm out here.
Yes. Knew you were. Gary, guys, is a board member for the past few years, is constructing what I consider a massive layout in his basement. He is part of the Friday night work crew, which is unfortunately on hold, probably until we all get vaccinated. But I look forward to getting back there. Gary is going to talk to us about sound decoders in an F7. Gary, you got it. Here's your first slide.
Well, good evening, everybody. I never put in any sound decoders until COVID, and I decided I'd give it a try. I've been installing sound decoders in my F7's A and B units. Picture 2, please. What I've used is Soundtrack's Economy ECO P and P decoder with the serial number 882004, an iPhone speaker, and I've cut these speakers right back to where the tabs for the wires go to fit in smaller engines. I've used an LED with a resistor on it I'm getting out of China, and I also have the male and female wires that I use for the light. Picture number 3, please. This is the chassis when you first open it up. I removed the gray board in the middle by taking the 2 screws out. Picture number 4. This is the chassis with the board removed. I had 3/4-inch extensions to the 4 wires coming up from the trucks. I put shrink tubing on top of the wires to protect the soldered joints. Then I cut about 3/8 of an inch off the copper coming from the motor leads, and I soldered the wire, the positive and negative wire, onto there. One of the lessons I learned the hard way with the F7s early on, about probably 25, 30 years ago, I put a lens decoder in four of these things. And when I put the lens decoders in, I removed that copper strip from the motor, and I soldered right to the tabs. When I did that, unknowingly, I put too much heat on the tab, and it melted a little bit. I never saw it, but the engine would run around the layout, and they would stall. They would stop after about 20 minutes of running. So I always thought it was a faulty decoder. I would have never made that kind of a mistake, but it wasn't the decoder, it was me. I had to replace the motor in two of the units. Picture number 5, please. This 2 kV washers were placed under each of the screw heads that attach the board to the chassis. This prevents shorts on the board. I soldered the track and motor wires to the board. I soldered the female plug to the board for the front headlight, and I attached the speakers and mounted the speaker over the rear truck. This might be easy for a lot of you, but my hands shake, and soldering those little tabs on the board sometimes gets to be quite the project. Picture 6, please. I removed the front lens from the body, and I drilled a small little hole in the back of the lens, just down a little bit to put the LED into. And then I used super glue to attach the LED to the back of the lens, and I put the lens back into the body. I used Kryron tape, you can see it, the 2 pieces to tape the wires to the top of the shell, and I soldered the male plugs to the 2 wires. You have to make sure the LED doesn't work if you reverse the wires. I've also installed a few sound decoders in a couple of RS3s and a BL2. And I should give the DCC guy on YouTube a plus, because I've watched a lot of his videos and I got a lot of good hints from him as I installed these sound decoders, and they actually do work. Thank you very much for your time, and happy holidays, everybody.
Gary, thank you so much. You made it look real easy, and I appreciate that. Next up, guys, Gary Muncie Jr. The name is familiar, but this is not the board member. This is the son of one of our board members, now in Ohio. Gary, are you out there, Gary Jr.?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Gary. Have at it. Here's your first slide.
So today I'm here to talk to you about the railroad that I love to model, which is the Rio Grande. Here's a couple of my models on John Flanders' famous module at one of the shows. I'm not sure which show. Next slide, please. And then this next slide is more of my stuff, my models. The first 2 engines just so happen to be a battery consist. The first engine has the decoder in it, and the second engine has the battery in it. Battery is really nice to run. Again, on another module, or no, this is on my dad's layout, actually, downstairs in his basement. Pulling a nice string of coal cards. Next slide, please. The bad thing about the railroad that I love is it is a fallen flag. This is the company that bought out the railroad that I love, Union Pacific. The Union Pacific, with their heritage units, they put the road number is usually the year that they bought out that railroad. In this case, it is wrong. And the reason being is in 1989 is when the Rio Grande bought out Southern Pacific. That Southern Pacific was a more known name. They kept the Southern Pacific name, however, it was still Rio Grande. In 1996, which is the Southern Pacific Heritage Unit, that is when the Union Pacific actually bought out the Rio Grande. Now, as far as me being a fan of the Rio Grande, I am not really sure how that happened. My dad says it's because we stopped at Helper, Utah when I was 1 year old. I'm not quite sure if that's true or not, but unfortunately, you can't see Rio Grande Power anymore until I move to Ohio. If you wouldn't mind, next slide. The owner of the Wheeling Lake Erie used to work for the Rio Grande. And because of that, this shot right here, which is shot in Brewster, Ohio, at their main yard, is actually the Wheeling Lake Erie still running Rio Grande Power in Rio Grande paint. And if you wouldn't mind the next slide, please. And this is one of the Rio Grande tunnel motors, still numbered in Rio Grande numbers and Rio Grande paint, shot in Bellevue, Ohio. And before I finish up, because this is the end of it, I would like to talk about one thing, and that would be the legend. If it wasn't for the legend, which I have heard some people call him, I would not be into railroading, whether it be model railroading or rail fanning. But thanks to the legend, I am into model railroading. And unfortunately, that is it for my presentation, and I do believe that the legend is next.
You're right, Gary Jr. You're absolutely right. You got me being silly now. But the legend, Senior, are you there? That was very sweet, I might add. The legend, are you there?
I have heard people.
Yeah, the legend is here. How you doing, John?
I have heard people call him that.
You know what? I have no doubts at all. So alphabetical by name, you know they're going to go right next to each other, guys. So here is Senior, aka the legend, and there's your first. There's your first slide.
I paid Junior to say that too. So yeah,
there he goes.
All right, my presentation's on Jordan spreaders, and one of the websites that I frequent very much on the internet is a website called railpictures.net, and wide variety of trains, engines all over the world. Well, I stumbled across this photo of a Kansas City Southern Jordan spreader set on a work train. Ironically, the two locomotives pushing the Jordan spreader are basically B units. The train crew cannot occupy the cabs. The windows are plated over. So they're basically just power units for the Jordan spreader. You can do the next slide, John. It's basically the same thing, just another aerial shot there. Basically, again, the locomotive pushing is plated over the window. So how they run it? They run it from inside the Jordan spreader from engineer controls. Next slide. That's a picture I shot last year in Truckee, California, at the end of May. That's one of the Union Pacific's spreader fleet for the Donner Pass, Southern Pacific, ironically. And they've got a Jordan spreader on each end. Same thing, although the windows aren't plated over on these engines, they could be occupied. The engineer still runs the train from the spreader. Next slide. That's an engineer control stand. It's actually a screen capture from a video. And that's the engineer's control stand inside one of the Union Pacific Jordan spreaders. Next. So I decided to model my own. I bought the Walther Jordan spreader. I bought the Chicago Northwestern model and basically painted out the CNW logo. If you can see closely, my headlight is lit, and I put LED bulbs in the headlight. I bought the CNW version because it had the round barrel type headlight, and so I wanted to light it. Now, the locomotive was a Atlas U23B. That was one of the CSX Pumpkin maintenance away engines. So I just patched out the CSX logo on the side of the engine, and I played it over the windows. Next slide. There's another shot of my work train. Yes, this is battery powered. So I have a cable going between the engine and the spreader for the headlight control. And then I have a cable between the engine and the first hopper car, which contains the battery. Next slide. There's a shot with the spreader wing stuck out of the side. It's letter from my Sheet River Railway, which what we think was done in version 2 or 3 of our show and tells. Next slide is a closer shot of the locomotive. I just took some styrene and just plated over the windows with the styrene and painted it with some orange paint. I gave it a maintenance away number, MW12. Next slide. And I took the hopper load out. That's the battery in the hopper car to power the engine. The system's called Rail Pro, and the battery I got from a company in California, and it fits just perfect into the hopper car. And that's all I got, John.
That was wonderful. That was perfect. I know we're not supposed to ask any questions. One of my own rules. But how long does that battery last, Gare?
That's actually I haven't charged that one yet, but I haven't really been running it a long. It'll last 3 or 4 hours.
Nice. That's enough for an session. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be the topic of one of our future show and tells. Is going to be battery operation.
Oh well. Okay. Well, we won't give it away then. So Gary, thank you, Mr. Legend.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And we'll hear from you again, I'm sure. Guys, next up is Jim Klein, everybody. Jim is a representative of the Canton Historical Society, guys. That's only about 10 miles from my house. I was there in the old days, so I can vouch for the quality of this layout. It is beautiful. So Jim is here to give us a little bit of an update on this Historical Society. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am. How's the sound?
Your sound is very clear. Go right ahead. Okay. Here's your first slide.
All right. Thank you very much, John. This would have been our second year at the Springfield show, so we're doing this tonight. But little history on the Canton Historical Museum. It was founded to preserve the history of the town of Collinsville, Connecticut, which owes its existence in no small measure to the Collins Axe Company. The Axe Company was founded by Samuel Collins, his brother David, and their cousin William Wells in 1826. The museum is housed in a former Collins Company building known as the Plow Shop, where the components of plows were assembled and then crated prior to shipment. The building was converted to a recreation center for the employees in 1929 and sported a 6-lane duck-pin bowling alley on the top floor. The Farmington Valley Railway Society constructed and maintains an HO scale diorama of the town and Axe Company over that very bowling alley. Next slide, please. Prior to 1830, the best available transportation systems were canals. In 1825, construction was begun on a canal from New Haven, Connecticut to Northampton, Massachusetts, which is called the Farmington Canal. And it came within 5 miles due east of Collinsville. However, canal transport was slow and it stopped altogether during times of drought or during winter months when the water froze. The mill pond formed for the factory was also used for the harvesting of ice during the winter months. Next slide, please. The Collins Axe Company in Collinsville, Connecticut utilized the power of the Farmington River to power its manufacturing equipment in the industrial complex. Some historians believe this to be one of the first industrial complexes in the Americas at the beginning of the industrial age. The factory and town were serviced by 2 railroads. The canal line arrived in Collinsville after the New Haven and Northampton Railroad began construction in 1847, leaving from New Haven. Track was laid in the canal bed or on its adjacent towpath, hence the reference as the canals line. Next slide, please. The second railroad, the Connecticut Western, ran from Hartford to the New York-Connecticut border and was completed in 1871. After bankruptcy, the line was reorganized as the Hartford and Connecticut Western Railroad. 2 years later, it was absorbed by the Central New England and Western, which owned the 6,600-foot Poughkeepsie Bridge across the Hudson River. It was then merged with the Philadelphia, Reading, and New England Railroad, which in 1898 became the CNE. Finally, J.P. Morgan's New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad, the New Haven, purchased control of the CNE to gain access to the Poughkeepsie Bridge. The CNE was then operated as an independent line until 1927 because the New Haven had access to the bridge from a Stanbury line and didn't really need the CNE. Next slide, please. The two railroads did not meet. The canal line utilized the triple trestle bridge across the Farmington River to enter Collinsville, while the CNE arrived from the opposite side of the river and used a Y to back into the town to deliver and pick up passengers and freight. The Y made it possible for the train to reverse direction and maintain a locomotive at the head of the train. Next slide, please. The Farmington Valley Railway Society is located on the top floor of the Canton Historical Museum in the area that was once the Duck Pin Bowling Alley. The Farmington Valley Railway Society built and maintains a diorama of Collinsville circa 1900 in HO scale with visitor-operated trains. To the rear of the Collinsville diorama is a freelance layout depicting typical New England scenes in the era of 1950 through 1970, the steam to diesel transition of motive power, which is the club layout. Next slide, please. The diorama depicts the town and the factory as it appeared in the first decade of the 20th century. The corporate headquarters building can be seen center right. It is the three-story building which sits directly across Front Street from the plow shop building. Next slide, please. The factory complex was modeled using photographs as well as engineering and site drawings that can be found in the museum's archives. Most buildings were scratch-built utilizing these resources as there were no commercially available kits. The museum has an extensive archive of research material that it makes available to interested researchers. Contact the museum for details on how to access the archives. Next slide, please. The plow shop, which, as I said, is home to the Canton Historical Museum, figures prominently in the center left of this scene. It is the large gray three-story building sitting behind a passenger station for the canal line, which is seen departing to the right, heading to Unionville, Connecticut. Next slide, please. This bridge is still standing and is part of the Rails to Trails walking and bicycle path utilizing the former canal line right away. Next slide, please. The Farmington Valley Railway Society is seeking new members. The club meets every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. at the Plow Shop building in Canton, in Collinsville, Connecticut. Contact us via email at info@fbrs.club or stop in on Thursday night except holidays. That's when we have our club meetings. We are currently working on setting up op sessions and expect to be able to accommodate as many as 10 plus train crews. Additionally, there are several future projects planned by the club to enhance the layout, and we can use your expertise and help. Thanks for watching.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you so much. I promised I wouldn't do this, but I will say one thing. Take me 2 seconds, guys. When I first was there, it was in the late 70s, early 80s, and we did actually build over the bowling alley, and there was a concern at first if the layout was going to be level, and I said, seriously, we're on a bowling alley. And what was so funny about it is they were perfectly level, as you might imagine they'd have to be. So I still remember that to this day. We all got a good laugh out of it when we were building. Next up, guys. Oh, and by the way, take a screenshot of this if you want. There's a really nice video with narration of what you've just seen. So check that out if you want to go to that URL. Just hit print screen and you'll be able to get a memory of it. But if you need it, we'll send it to you as well. Next up, guys, Jim Lewis, modeltraintechnology.com. And he's got some really cool stuff. Again, Jim's been at the show, a lot of lighting, animation, car lighting, that kind of stuff. Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
All right, there you go.
All right, let's get started. So my name is Jim Lewis. I'm the founder of Model Train Technology, and we design and manufacture lighting and animation products for model railroading. Products are designed to be powerful, but extremely easy to use and very affordable. Our car lighting products allow you to install interior lighting into N and HO scale in just a few minutes. Our lighting animation products for the layout combine millions of special effects for both LED and fiber optic cable with the push of a few buttons on the keypad. I started designing all these solutions 2 years ago while I was building a new N-scale layout. One thing led to another, and now we have over 50 products covering N and HO with O and G scale products coming soon. So let's take a look at some of the installations. Next. Here we have N-scale in the top two pictures and HO in the bottom two. Notice how evenly the light spills across the interior of the cars. And when we can, we add some fun details. If you look at the top right picture, it was meant to simulate FDR's train while he was stumping for election. That car has a porch light using an 0402 LED that is connected to the extra pads on the board. The red LEDs are separately controllable and can be solid or blink. Next slide. So here's a composite picture of the different sizes of boards we manufacture. Note that we have a two-row board, double row, one for N and one for HO. These are used in sleeper cars where a light down the center does a poor job. Each scale has a standard size board and a short board. Shorts can be used for baggage cars and European models. We sell a caboose kit that's very popular that includes the board, an LED for lighting the cupola, rear lanterns, and our floating brass, which is used to pick up the electricity from the wheels. Next. Switching over to our lighting animation controllers, these greatly simplify lighting that enhances the layout. We have two types, the LED plug-in and the first fiber optic lighting controller, which is the middle picture, with two models of that. First, the LED controller is plug compatible with all Woodland Scenics products, but you can also attach just about any kind of LED you might find on eBay, and it'll support both 3-volt and 12-volt LEDs. No resistor needed. Each port is individually dimmable and animatable. There are 18 core special effects that can be assigned to any port, and adjustments for speed, randomness, and brightness are available. There are more than 5 million possibilities on a single controller, but you only need a couple of button clicks to activate them. No soldering, no programming, no fuss, and some great animation, as you can see in this picture. There are two models of the fiber controller, one with 16 ports that has the same functionality I just described, but instead of LEDs, you plug in fiber optic cable. Special pins hold the fiber in place. The second version has 8 ports and 3 special effects, and one of our reseller partners sells that version. Next. For those a bit more adventurous in the spirit and skills to solder, we make a micro version of our controller that fits inside the buildings. This is N-scale. You might recognize this is the Sicken Tire Company. The lower right picture shows the styrene room dividers and the controller mounted on top, which is inside the roof of the building on the left. A version of this presentation will be available on YouTube where you can see these animations in action. The capacity per controller is 1 amp. Next. Here's a sample of the store demo unit we provide to dealers. We set the controller to flicker the street lights, blink and flash the lights on the car, and randomly turn on the room lights off and on. We manufacture pre-wired LEDs with the JST plugs, those little white plugs. They're $1.50 each versus $4 or more from other sources. They are available in 4 colors of white, and we have RGB that we use for the TV simulation. So when you see the video, look in the upper right corner, that's a TV simulation going on. Next. This is a recent customer layout to utilize 3 of our controllers. It's pretty spectacular. And by the way, all of our lighting animation controllers have a built-in DCC decoder. It can behave as a multifunction or accessory decoder. You don't need any DCC to run the controller, but if you have and you want to, you can. Next. Here's another customer picture. The controller includes a fade timer. In this case, the street lamps fade on, stay on for an amount of time, and then fade off. The duration of both on and off can be as long as 18 hours or as short as a few minutes. Next. I'm just going to list all the special effects that are included in all the controllers that we sell. On, flicker, blink, which is adjustable, beacon, fade, random, step, chase, race, synchronized alternate flash, TV, Mars, arc welding, lighting, and comet. And each port on each controller can do any one of those animations. Next. In the top left is an HO caboose in its final stage of implementation, and below is the 3D printed lantern that we provide with the kit. It's pretty detailed. And lastly, using the same technology we use for fiber lighting controller, we have a fiber dongle that allows you to connect fiber optic cable to our standard LED controller. So you can mix and match LEDs and fibers as you like. Next. And in keeping under 5 minutes, here is our contact information. If you forget who we are, just type in Model Train Lighting and Animation into Google. We'll be in the first 3 or 4 results. Our catalog of products is brand new, and we use a technology called Flipbook to render it on the screen. It's like viewing an iPad on an iPad without the iPad. Thank you very much for listening, and really thank you very much, John and the Amherst Railway Society, for allowing us to present today. We look forward to doing a lot more.
Jim, thank you so much. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to. I'm just going back. This scene blows me away. That is such a great shot. And that's some guy's layout. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, really cool.
That's right up there with Lynn Clock's. He's got about 10 million lights on his layout in a night scene, but boy, that reminds me of that. So thank you so much. Guys, next. Yeah, you're very welcome. Next is our president, the president of the Amherst Railway Society, guys. Lots of great ideas coming from Joe. He's been held back a little bit by this darn COVID-19 business, but he's raring to go, and I see it coming this spring. So, Joe, are you out there? Joe, there you are. Now? Yeah, there you go. Back. You're good.
Hi,
Joe.
John.
There's your first slide.
Hey, so I'm a little different from everybody else tonight, but one of the things my company has done over the years is install grade crossings for the real railroads. So this is a picture of us. The best part's when the train comes, obviously, but we just put those masts up, got them wired and doing all that fun stuff. And we take the old ones down. So next slide, John. So with that, I get the old ones. Now, if you can recognize these people, that is John. He's holding that up with his hand while the legend is out there operating a skid steer. Okay, and the two of them, and we're at the club, right, in Palmer, and we picked this up and we're moving it across the parking lot. And this is one that was donated by Arbor Alliance to the club, and we're going to stand it up. Next slide, John. Okay, so the butt you're looking at, that's John Peters. There's John Sack right there holding it and giving instructions. Gary's still on the machine, and he's propping that signal mast up, and they're trying to get the bolts in. Next one, John. Yep, see, this is a true legend. Look at this. He can do it with no hands, right? So he's having a blast putting that up, and we all wondered if he could do this. So he was surprised as all that he was able to run my skid steer and assemble that. All right, next one, John. All right, there's the crew. We're getting ready to stand that up and put the bolts in. As you can see, there's the clubhouse right there. Next slide, John, if you would. All right, so this is the complicated part. We got it together, going together, and guess what? Bolts wouldn't fit on the foundation. All this material is surplus, and they were going to scrap it. So on the way home, I said, hey, can I keep this? And the railroad said, sure, we don't want it. So that foundation was put in about a month or two ago. All right, next slide, John. All right, so that's the rest of my crew. That's Paul right there. He's checking it out. We're doing as best we can to wiggle the bolts in. We have it all set, and I think the next slide should be getting to the end. So if we go to it, and there's the actual location and what we were doing. All right, we got it there. We did a beautiful job in a matter of hours. We had that up, and it's ready to go. Now, Bob Marshall is going to help me put in the LEDs and the flashing device in the spring, and I'm looking for members to help me clean this up and cosmetically paint it and make it pretty. And the intention is that when we have a meeting or an activity or an event, this will be sitting out there flashing and telling everybody we're open for business. Next slide, John.
That's it.
And that's it. So if you want to help cosmetically fix that, come see me in the spring. It's one of the many projects I had planned for this year, and at least I got one done. Thanks, and great show, John. It's working beautiful.
Thank you so much. Guys, there's so much that Joe wants to do. So just hang in there. As soon as the weather gets better, we'll all have been vaccinated and we'll get back to work. Club layout, outdoor layout, all the other things that Joe wants to do. So keep up the good work, Joe. It's appreciated a great deal. Next up, guys, John Peters. And John, I gotta say, guys, John Peters is the guy responsible for this evening. Very quiet guy. But let me tell you something. Not only is he a great carpenter, but he's always there to help you. You call him up, he will be there. So, John, with that, there's your first slide to talk about stock cars.
Okay, first thing to mention all this legend talk. With the exception of Junior, I've known Gary the longest, and I call him the ace. So that's who I call the ace, not legend. But getting on to the stock cars. When we started this COVID thing, everyone started going their own separate way, trying to find out something to do. And I started doing a inventory of all my stuff, and I come across I had 11 of these cars in kits, so I decided to put them together. These happen to be Mather stock cars. They're all painted B&O or Mather. I dry brushed them with the gray for the sides, some rust on the roofs. I replaced the roof walks from what it shows here. I've actually got the wood ones thinned down so they look more accurate. And metal drop or brass drops. Since I use them on the belt lines and stuff, Module Club, I'm afraid to keep the little cheap plastic ones because they'll get snapped off in a hurry. So I made them brass. So next slide, please. Well, when I got those done, I said, well, I'm going to finish up the rest of my stock cars. Well, I had 7 Penzi K7s. I did those basically the same way, so I'm not going to cover those. I had 7 oddball cars I had gathering up. 4 of them were old AHM cars that I'd acquired when I was in the military back in the 80s. Right outside Chanute Air Force Base was a hobby shop, and they had a bin full of these cars. So I grabbed a couple of them, never thought much of them. So I decided to figure out what can I do with these cars. So this happens to be a New York Central one, so I said, do the New York Central one. Unfortunately, the first picture I had did not have this mechanical device on the side, so I decided to take them off. Then after I got those off, then I found this picture showing the mechanical device. So I looked at the picture and found out what that mechanical device was. These cars are called convertible cars. And what that means, it did not mean that the roof opened up so the giraffes' heads could pop out. It meant that they can be converted from single deck to double deck by just cranking this lever mechanism. The upper deck would go up into the ceiling and make a single deck, or they could lower it down. The problem was with the AHM cars was they made a mistake. They put this device on both sides of the cars. I found out afterwards it's only on one side, which is, I guess, the B side with the brake end on the left. So this side, the brake end would be on the left side of this car. So I go ahead, next slide, John. So this happens to be one of the models I did of it. I actually, like I said, I actually did it with the convertible cars, this fixed double deck car in New York Central in the 27,000 series. And it basically did the same way. I painted them. I painted them freight car red, I think it was. I don't quite see it, but anyways, and then
John, I think we maybe have lost your sound. Give us a test. Yeah, I'm losing your sound. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do something about that. John, are you there? Guys, just to make sure that John, it's just John. Could someone else chime in to see if we've got sound?
Hello, John.
Hello, John.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Ken's here.
All
Can
right.
you hear me? It's Bob Paquette.
Yeah, we hear you, Bob. I'm going to catch you up, Bob.
Okay.
So we
I just want
we,
to make sure my mic was on. I
yeah,
mean,
you're fine.
available.
So guys,
Okay.
it looks like we lost Peters, John Peters. So let me just show you a couple of the slides. He did a lot of work on these pretty much out of the box freight cars, and did a lot of nice stuff to them. John, are you there? We lost his sound, guys, unfortunately, because these are nicely done. John, are you there?
Okay, I
There
lost
you
my
go.
audio. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. You're back.
Okay, this is the on the underside to show what I done on the underside. Typical AHM car with the AHM underframe. I kind of like them, even though they're not so prototypical. But compared to an Athearn car, they're more detailed. So basically, I end up cutting off the couplers, mounting them with a KD coupler with a 00 screw to a number 9 box. Basically, it's the same 5 coupler, but it's a number 9 box, and I've been using those a lot. Metal wheels, and just did a little high gloss or a little rusting here and there. Next one. Okay, this is the prototype of a Union Pacific car. It's kind of the same thing. I'll show both of them afterwards. Go ahead, John. This is my Model 1 of them. Same thing. This happens to be a same type of car. Can't quite tell on this one by other than the Union Pacific yellow there. I also did some depot buff to try to dirty it up a little bit, little black on the gray or the silver roof. The truck, or like I said, roof walk has been changed since I've had these pictures taken to a wood one, more narrower. Okay, go ahead, John. Okay, these are the 2 cars side by side. Like I said, the same cars, but you can see some of the bracing's different. The doors are different. It's kind of hard to see. On the New York Central, they mounted their drop steps on the outside of the car, where the Union Pacific had theirs underneath the car. Okay. Okay, I brought these up. These are just stock. The one on the left is a normal Athearn car. The one on the right is a Lifelike car. I didn't really have nothing to do with it, so I just took the cars as they were and just dirtied them up. Little roof brown on the brown car, and black and a little white and this and that on New York or the Chicago Northwestern. Yeah, the Chicago Northwestern wasn't very accurate, but one thing I did notice with Chicago Northwestern cars compared to the other stock cars, their the height of the cars were small or shorter. So I said, well, I'm going to leave it just because it makes it a little different. So, okay, John, and then another Athearn type car. This happens to be a prototype car. So go ahead to the next one, John. And there's my model of the Athearn car. Same basic type of operations. So that's pretty much my presentation.
Excellent, John. Thanks. I'll tell you, it's a great example of taking stuff out of the box and making it look fantastic. So I just love them. And stock cars. Who spends a lot of time with stock cars? But you gotta if you're going to have that type of industry on your layout. So I just think you did a great job. Thank you. So guys, Dale actually got called away. But I've only got 2 short slides here, but I do have a representative from the Central New England Railroad here to talk about it. Ryan is going to help me in a minute. I've only got 2 slides, and it really is, did you know? Did you know that we own a Trackmobile? It was donated to us a couple of years ago. You saw it at the train show one year. It was parked outside on the grounds of the Eastern States Exhibition for a while. And it turns out the Central New England needed some help with, and I said, well, keep it in shape, and you guys can run it. And I took this in the late summer, early fall this year, just because But they've already put new windows in it. It looks really good. Here's another picture of it, a little bit closer without so much reflection. You still see a little bit of reflection. But this is the Amherst Railway Society's car, guys. Eventually, what we'd like to do, and we're dreaming at this point, but the Big E kind of thinks it's a great idea, is when they put a siding back in on the Eastern States Exhibition grounds, this is going to be relabeled for the Amherst Railway Society. It's going to be locomotive number 1. So it'll allow us to do that. Ryan, are you out there? Unmute your line and tell us what you can. Give us a few words about this. That's parked. This is actually parked about a mile from my house in Bloomfield. Ryan, go ahead. You had it, Ryan. There you go.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, so we use the Trackmobile to mainly move our ballast cars around. Right now, it's not really ballast season. All the ballast froze to the sides of the cars. We were supposed to dump some a few weeks ago when it was warmer. We just never got to it, but we mainly use this thing to move the cars up and down the pit track there. It's about a 2% grade down in there. And I got to say, that thing has good lights, good battery power. We had some people come to the railroad a few months ago. They got into the Trackmobile, they turned all the lights on, then left, and came back in the morning. They were all on, and the thing still turned over. So that thing's got some pretty good batteries in it. And the thing has okay pulling power. It can pull a loaded ballast car. It really can. So it works out great for us for the ballast loading. And it can only really break when it's attached to another railroad car. With our ballast cars, they take a while to charge up because they were built in 1948, I believe. One of them's New Haven, and yeah, most of our stuff there is pretty old. But the Trackmobile has really helped us out with loading the ballast cars and moving stuff around up there at Day Hill Road. And I think we've used it to pull 1922 out of the tent when we had to put the hatch back on the top, and we use it to push it back in. So it works good.
Excellent, Ryan. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, and I bump into you every now and then. And when I hear you guys down at the corner of my street, if I've got the time, because you guys move by so fast, I'll run down there. I usually wave, and sometimes Dale's on as brakeman, and Jeremy is an engineer, but I appreciate the help. So thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Guys, next is Ken Cameron. I love listening to Ken, because he's got a lot to say about JMRI, only because he's one of the developers. So he is one of the original writers, and he's also a member of the Central New York Modelers, guys. So Ken, I am going, and we're going to do this a little bit different. Ken, are you there? Yep, you're there. Let me actually give you, Ken's got a little short thing to do about LCC, guys. So I am actually going to give control. I'm going to make Ken the presenter, and you're going to be able to see Ken's screen as soon as he accepts. So go ahead and accept, and we should see you, Ken.
Yep. Let's see. Hopefully we get the right screen shown. Which one are you seeing?
Hold on one second. I am looking for you.
Oops. Let me back up here. Okay.
Try that. There we go. I see you. It's the right one.
Okay. You've got the LCC one?
Yes, LCC in use.
Okay. Anyhow, most of you know me from the fact that I picked up from Sudro Brown the JMRI Help Is Here desk, and have been running that for a number of years, and been giving clinics, usually one a day, at the shows. Generally, it was JMRI to begin with, and then we added LC, Open LCB, LCC as things progressed. Well, tonight I've got a layout that I'm going to. Actually, it's showing the wrong screen. I want the big one. It'll do. Anyhow, or do I know a way to get it to pick the screen I want it to show? Because actually, you're looking at my working screen, and I want it to go to the other window.
Yeah. I'm not
it worked
sure.
Last night. Yeah, it worked Monday.
It did.
So let's see.
Yeah, try messing around with it if you want, Ken.
Yeah, let me just take a second.
Click on excuse me. Click on display settings.
Slideshow instead of presenter show.
Display settings.
No,
yeah.
not just no.
Oh,
Swap.
that's that one.
Yeah, swap.
Oh, if I do a swap, let's see if that gets you the right thing. Hey, that worked. Okay. Anyhow, we have a layout here in Syracuse. Some of you have been on it operating, and it is Drew James's layout. It's HO/NC radio throttles, and it takes a nice section of the basement, but he has a beautiful lounge area. Construction began back in August 15, and we held the first op session February 7, in 17. Between then and the fall of 19, we went through and added LCC for all the signaling and control systems. So the rest of the scenic got complete this summer, basically with him working alone in the pandemic. And like I say, primarily it was built for the purpose of having op sessions, and it'll suck up 12 to 15 crew members. Anyhow, it's a nice, well worked, decent size aisles. People really like it. And at this point, actually, all the primary scenicking is done, and all it's getting now is extra detailing. But I did all my work from the computer/dispatch station. And this is where we worked out the whole plan for how to get the LCC working on it. And what I did, I created a JMRI layout editor panel of the whole layout. When I first wrote it, everything was using virtual signals, virtual sensors, everything else. As we started adding the real hardware, I kept moving it over from the simulated to the real, and more of the panel actually started doing something. Now, this is like the floor plan of the room. Let's see if I get my mouse in the right place. So the operators, the dispatch was here. Our first part was just adding, 4 nodes here and getting everything figured out on this peninsula. Getting the how do we drive turnouts, how do we get the push buttons, how do we, light a signal, and then actually how do we build our logic. After that, then we started to branch out in different directions for a grand total of like 13 nodes to cover the whole place. Now these are the RR circuits LCC signal nodes. Now that's what one of these looks like once you get all the wires going to it. You'll note that there's the thin flat satin cords. Those are for the Atlas type signals that he used because, well, he had a whole bunch of them from his old layout in the old house. And, many of them look like this. He supplemented it with also the BLMA signals and the new Atlas signals. One feature that saved us greatly was the fact that the signal LCC boards could be configured to do either common anode or common cathode. Those of you who have worked with trying to build signal systems for layouts have found that you got to watch to make sure that you've got the right type of signal for how you're able to drive it. And this one I threw in that was the last scenic area, Kettle Falls, being added to the layout, and that was finally finished this summer. And he sent me a picture because when I last looked at it, it was still half pink foam. The project that we're now starting, and we will be using LCC, this is the on-screen USNS type dispatch system that we use for dispatching the layout. We're going to build a physical version of this with all the the switches, the toggles, and lights, and it'll be in one side of that cubicle where the dispatch is. And that we're figuring is going to take probably the coming year and maybe into the next, depending on when we get to the point where people feel like working together on stuff. But all of that's going to be LCC. And it's a great working example of, this stuff actually works. Okay, back to you, John.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let me go back and grab that screen again and we should be back. Let me just refresh. Yep, there we go. Thanks. Guys, I actually operated on that layout when that Kettle Falls, if that's what it was pink foam. We were up there for the last time Amherst belt lines went up, and that happened to be the layout that I operated on, and it was fun. It was a blast. So next, guys, is Mike Rosenberg, who's not here, but just to mix it up a little bit and show you a bunch of different things. Mike's selling a bunch of stuff, and you could take some screenshots. This is what he's selling. It's all American Flyer stuff, guys, and some O-gauge American Flyer. So just quickly take a look at that, because if you're really interested in this stuff, and most of this equipment is all in excellent condition, guys, which is amazing. But he found this collection that he wanted to just part with. So you could do a screenshot of that. There's another page of all this kind of stuff that's here. I promised him I would just show the list. And there's the third page of the list. So if you're doing screenshots, guys, you could capture this. But just to move it along quickly, there's a little bit more. And we've got a bunch of stuff here. But that's where you could, and I'll pause here a little bit, either email me or email Mike, and I will actually get you that entire list if you're interested. So for those American Flyer guys, and that's how I grew up, guys. I actually was an American Flyer guy back in the 50s. So if you're interested, email either me or Mike. And if you're not sure and you'd like to, just email me and I'll get you that. So next up is Phil Johnson, guys, our current secretary of Amherst. And he has a really nifty layout that I've been to, and it had an upper and lower level. And Phil, you're there. So watch how thank you, Phil. Watch how he builds this helix, guys. There's your first shot, Phil.
Okay, I'm muting my speaker so I don't get feedback. Okay. I moved to this house 6 years ago, and I got given this nice big room to build a layout in. So I was putting my modules in and, put in this big piece at the end of the room there. Next slide, John. And decided that I could go double deck on this thing. So I added another deck, started building a helix, ended up with a 3 3/4 loop helix. And I let that thing sit, and we pounded on it, had op sessions and stuff, and really wasn't quite right. Next slide. I ended up having to add another loop to it. This is how it looked before we added another loop. Next slide. I actually, back up a second. Don't change the slides. I used the same type of concept that Kurt did for building those little trapezoids. But what I did was I had a couple of sheets of 1/4 inch or really thin Luan plywood. So I built it out of that and then just laminated them like brickwork and just glued and screwed them together. And it really made a nice solid base for the railroad. Next slide. So like I said, we did that. I tried to put some cardboard strips on it to start building scenery. Next slide. And yeah, looks the same. Next slide. There's looking down the other way towards the room. So I've got the two levels all the way around the room. Next slide. So I don't have a picture of the fourth loop added, but at some point last summer I decided, well, it's time to enclose it. So I used that scenery cloth stuff and put that on there. It didn't look too bad, but then I found that it's fairly porous. You can't paint directly on it. So I had to use plasterboard mud. Next slide. And fill that in, started putting my bricks in place, put my tunnel portals in. Next slide. Ended up, we're just running trains on it. Next slide. That's the Quabbin Valley. That's my line. Next slide. There's some of the other buildings and stuff in place. Next slide. Yeah, there it is. You can see that plaster cloth is fairly porous. It's got like a grid pattern, like scenery screen. It just doesn't work well. Next slide. So I ended up, like I said, putting plasterboard mud over the whole thing, start hanging rocks on the side of it. I've got some papers guarding the track from getting all mud on them. Next slide. I had some of these rock outcroppings that I bought at some of the train shows for next to nothing. I decided I'd just start pasting them on there. Next slide. Then the first coat of paint. I found something in the bargain bin at the local hardware store for $5 for a quart, and it was this medium brown. I said, that's perfect. That looks like dirt to me. Next slide. So just keep adding little bits of scenery here and there. I've got the brickwork going on there. Start building the upper level up there behind there. Next slide. Got this little wall because I'm starting up the incline on the leftmost track there. The bottom one is just a loop that loops back to the main layout, so I can have a dog bone on the base level. Next slide. There we're coming out of the helix, and we've got almost a full loop out in the air at the top of the thing. Start putting those little pieces of greenery in. Got a little dust and grass sprinkled on the wet plaster. Next slide. The top, I put a cover on the top of it. I put a factory in there, built out of those old AHM kits that everybody has a gazillion of. That's 4 kits, just stripped the ends off and made up this double deck thing. And those are zombies there in the fence there, and you'll see in just a moment. Next slide. I actually built the Umbrella Corporation from the Resident Evil movies. And yeah,
I know what you are.
yeah, that's the T virus turns everybody's into zombies. So this is the Umbrella Corp, the hive plant, and they're going to get chemicals in and ship stuff out, and God only knows what's in those cars. But there's going to be a whole squadron of zombies out front there, and I think there's one more slide, maybe 2. And there's my buddy, Donald. That's the last slide. Thanks, guys.
Phil, that was funny. You made me laugh. When I didn't dawn on me. I've seen that. And then when you finally said the Umbrella Corporation from the movie, I said, oh, my God, that's right. So fantastic. William, are you out there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Guys,
Well,
after William, we're going to go back and go back all the way to Bob Paquette, who has a couple slides. So we've got William, and then we've got Bob Paquette, and we'll call it a day. So hang in there and go ahead, Will.
Well, the first scene here is my attempt at Markland, HO. As the visiting Germany, I got hooked on some of those trains there. So this would be my try to stay a little bit scale here. If you look at the background on top of the mountain, there is a German castle up there also. So that I try to whet my appetite both with HO as well as major O gauge guy. Next slide. And you can see just a portion of my my layout. It's a 24 by 12 altogether. We have a school in there because I'm a retired school teacher, of course. And then we have some of the plastic built buildings that I've had since I was probably 10 years old, and I kept those things. And you can even see some Tootsie Toys in there, as well as some other items that you just can't throw away at all. In the background, you can see the HO Markland setup, which is separate from the O gauge. Next. And of course, we all have to have our scenes in there, and this is a typical road scene. And those lights are Rail King lights. They do work, go through the sequence. So it's always interesting to see that with the grandkids looking, and it makes it more realistic for them. And of course, they like moving things around at the same time. Next. And again, more of these scenes. I find it interesting trying to put some scenes together with just items that I've picked up over the years, and just to give it a little more of your own personal view of what you'd like to set up. So this is in the Markland scene, and it's just a little construction area going on. Next. And again, this is working on the side of the railroad. What do you do with broken semaphores and so forth that have no use? You start to put them to use with a little seed of working individuals. Next. And again, this gives you a better view of the layout where you can see the bridges in the back. You can see the scenery that I put up with just blue styrofoam and then a handy can of white paint, making some clouds in there, and it just kind of filled everything in. You also see the bit right there. There's a Menards building. I do sell Menards things. I've been very successful at the Amherst show selling Menards, and I have quite a few things there, such as the light up buildings and some of their rolling stock, and it makes it interesting. Next. And again, you see more of the layout. Again, I have to say that this is the third generation. I had a layout, and my wife and I worked on it and talked about a better way of doing it. And of course, I wanted to just fill it in and put a big hole in the middle. And she talked me out of it. She says, you know, you're getting older. You're going to be on your hands and knees trying to do wiring and so forth. So I listened to her, and we ended up with the horseshoe to make it a little easier. And I changed over the tube track that I used to have into the fast track. I just found that it was better for me with the connections and to make sure things stay together. Next.
That's it.
I guess that's it.
Yes, sir. Will, thanks so much. Go ahead.
I just want to say that, you know, one of the things to enjoy, it's toy trains that I deal with. And when my grandkids come out and they look at the setup, and they move things around, some things get broken, some things get, you know, the dinosaurs get put in different places and so forth. But that's what it's all about. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that we're really building it for a generation to come and to be able to share that experience.
Well, I really appreciate it, and the fact that you're here, I just wanted to show off what you're up to. That's exactly what this stuff is all about. So I really appreciate that, Will, and we'll see you again soon. I'm sure.
Yes.
Bob Paquette is next. Bob, are you out there?
I'm there. I just turned on the mic.
Excellent. There's your first shot. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Bob. You know, the train layout that's at the clubhouse. I'm the one that built it. I took a little trip to Australia a few years back, about 2009, and I noticed when I was in Australia that a lot of the small towns and some of the larger towns they still use a lot of traction. They use a lot of trolleys. They call them tramways, and they really they keep the old ones. A lot of the towns still maintain their old trolleys, and so I'm going to show you a few of the. This is the town of Bendigo, and I got an opportunity to go right into the barns, and they were allowing me to go in with my camera and just see what the operation would look like. So the first one is the tramway barns, and this is in the town of Bendigo, which they refer to as the city in the forest. And you can give me the next slide. These are the cars that are, some of them are coming in for cleaning and repairs, and you can see what condition they're in. They're in great shape. Number 3, go ahead with this next slide. This is the tramway service facility, and you can see one that's just pulling in now. And once they get in there, they'll tag them if they've got to be cleaned, or they'll tag them if they've got repairs to be done. And you can give me the next slide. And that one there, that's tagged for cleaning. There's a little tag right on the doorway right there. and they go in with their vacuums and they wipe, they clean the windows and that. And I'll tell you, the paint job on these things are fabulous. They look like if they even start showing any wear, they take them into the paint shop and they do they repaint them. The next one, the next slide, that one, that's the grease and service pit. You can see underneath when the cars are in the barn. It's just like Jiffy Lube. You've got the track above, and the guys are walking around underneath, and they can service. They grease the journals. They do any of the inspections that have to be done from the underside. And next, you can see that one there is tagged. You can see the tag, and that one you can see he's doing a repair on the bifold door, and so they're doing some repairs right there. And the next one is this is what they, after they've gone through with the vacuum and they've cleaned the windows and everything else, this is what the inside of their trolleys look like, and they're really quite spacious, and they still use the overhead the wires. You'll see them as they're leaving. They've got the I'm not into traction, but you know, the cable that goes to the wire. And the next one is the yeah. There's a little congestion. You can see just how, as the cars are on the way out and there's another one coming in, and you can see how close they are as one is going by and the other one is waiting to go out. And the next one, after the service, it's backed out to the streets for Bendigo, and you can see the sign on there, Bendigo City in the Forest. And on the side of that one, they've got pictures, and you can see it looks like photographs that are applied to the outside there, and they're pictures of the forest from around Bendigo. And they do some advertising on the outside of it too, to supplement the passage, the money that they come in. And then the last slide should be that's it when he's coming out of the barn and he's heading back out onto the street, and it's sitting there ready for the next 6 hours of service. They come in, they go out for 6 hours, and then they run in and they swap and they replace the one coming in with another one going out for another 6 hours. And it was the ones that I've seen in Melbourne, it was a lot more modern. They've got one or two of the old ones just for tourism, but in Melbourne they have all very, very contemporary, very modern looking tramworks, but they still have a lot of cables and a lot of overhead wires in the streets. And so I see that they do use that a lot more than buses in Australia. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It is appreciated, Bob. Guys, that wraps it up. So let me just go from there. This was a long one, guys, but I knew it was going to be, but hey, what the heck, it's Christmas. We saw a lot of different things. To all our presenters, thank you. Guys, record number, 84 people at its peak. So we had quite a few people in this meeting. I really appreciate it. Watch for announcements for the next one. That concludes the show for tonight, guys. Have a great holiday, everybody. Stay safe, stay masked, and get your shot as soon as it's available. You guys take care. Have a great one. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys take care.
Thank you.
Marvelous.